You're welcome, my friends, and finally we reach tactics, the tactical element in a chess position. Now, you and I, as amateur players, the vast majority of our games will be decided by means of tactics. And it makes sense, therefore, before we do anything else, to scan the chessboard for the tactical element, because tactics are decisive. Now, we tend to think of tactics in their motif. For example, a mating attack, a discovered attack, a pin, a skewer, an X-ray, and some more complex motifs like attraction or deflection, things like these. And this is fine. For the sake of this video, we're going to divide tactics up into three areas. Tactics which result because of the position of the pieces. You might think of two rooks on the same diagonal, something like that. Tactics which result because of the dynamic potential of the pieces. I mean, you might think of something like a passed pawn. If it's dangerous enough, your opponent will pour all his resources in trying to prevent it from queening. And you can see it's the dynamic potential of the passed pawn which is its power. If it's blockaded, it's a different matter. But I'm simply using this to illustrate the concept of the dynamic potential of pieces can result in tactics, and we'll take a look at an example later. And finally, and probably the most interesting, is tactics which are created because of some strategic weakness. I mean, you just need to think of weak squares around your opponent's king, for example, or the weakness of the back rank, or the weakness of the 7th rank with two rooks on it. It's these strategic weaknesses which result in tactics forming. So let us take just a look at some examples. I'm going to use very simple examples to illustrate the concepts. I don't see the point of using very complicated tactical ideas if we can just get away with using simple tactics. So let us take a look at the first idea, tactics that are created because of the position of the pieces. Let us look at a very simple example first. Tactics that result because of the position of certain pieces. Here is a game I was following on the free internet chess servers between a FIDE master and a woman FIDE master. And this was the position at move 25. You can see that there is tactical potential because of the position of certain pieces. These two rooks are on the same diagonal. The bishop here looks as though it's a little trappy because of some moves like this here. In the game, white played g4, aiming to bring the bishop back. Of course, this frees up the f4 square, and black is able to bring the knight in to f4. Rook is attacked, it must move, black takes the bishop, and we still have this idea of two rooks on the same diagonal. Black played b6 to take advantage of this, and for whatever reason, white never saw the threat and brought the bishop back, and black was able to execute the tactic. Like this here. But you can see that the tactic resulted because of the position of the two rooks on the same diagonal. And this is what we mean by tactics because of the position of certain pieces. Here's another example of a tactic which results because of the relative position of certain pieces. It's a game played in 1978 between two Swedish correspondence players. And this is the position after 23 rook h to e1, and black plays a very dubious rook to e8. And you can see that the rook is undefended. There's also a very weak black king. Open file leading towards the black king. A diagonal leading to the black king. A white bishop on the board which can take advantage of this. But it's essentially the poor placement of this rook here on e8 which allows the tactic. Because it allows white to play the wonderful queen takes here on f4. Black is forced to recapture back. Rook takes with check. King is forced to move. And after the beautiful bishop to f5 restricting the movement of the king, black in fact resigned because there is no defence to the rook coming to the open g file, and black is roasty toasty. But I relate it to you, my friends, because it's the relative position of the pieces, this poor placement of this rook here on e8 undefended, which essentially allowed the tactic. Let us take a look at tactics which result from the dynamic potential of the chess pieces. Take a look at this position here from white's perspective. You can see that white would love to release the dynamic potential of this bishop, perhaps along this diagonal here, which at present is blockaded by its own pawn. Would love to release the dynamic potential of this knight coming to d5, and possibly in conjunction with the bishop laying siege to the weak c7 square, possibly forking the rook and the king. So this is the dynamic potential of the chess pieces. The problem with it is that if white plays an immediate knight to d5, black can play queen to c5, threatening of course checkmate here on f2. If white blockades with bishop to e3, well, we have queen a5 and it's a tempo move, a check. And it allows white time to play a move like c6, kicking the knight back. So in order for us to release the dynamic potential of our pieces, we need to prevent this tempo move from the queen coming to c5 to a5. And white achieves this with a wonderful bishop to b5 check. Look at that. Preventing the queen coming from c5 to a5. What if c6? Well, what if c6? Can release the dynamic potential of our knight with the knight coming to d5. There's no time for queen c5 threatening mate because of bishop coming to e3. Black has got to go there for queen d8, and we can now release the dynamic potential of our pieces with wonderful e6. You can see how we have created tactics by releasing the dynamic potential of our pieces. We have ideas of forking the king and the rook. We have ideas of disturbing the king by taking perhaps on f7. It was all made possible because of this wonderful move, bishop to b5, preventing the queen coming to a5 with tempo. And we have released the dynamic potential of our pieces, which has resulted in these tactics. So this is something to look out for in your own games, my friends. Ways of releasing the dynamic potential of your chessman. And it can result in tactics like this. And finally, let us take a look at the tactics which are created because of strategic weaknesses in the position. Take a look at this position here. You can see that there are various strategic weaknesses here. There is, of course, this tactical element of king and queen opposition along the half-open e-file. But the black king side itself is very weak. There's absence of an f-pawn, advanced nature of these pawns here. And white can use these ideas to formulate a scintillating tactic. And he does that with the beautiful bishop takes on d6 exclaim. Look at that. Doesn't matter if white takes with the c pawn or with the e pawn. For the sake of the video, we'll see he takes with the e pawn, opening up the e file, and white has this beautiful tactic. Double check on the king. King's going to move. Takes, and now look at this again. Another beautiful tactic. Bishop takes on f7. If the king ever takes here on g6, well, queen will come to e4 and white will get the piece back after taking this knight here. Therefore, black goes back to f8. You can see for the piece, white has 3 pawns. Black has forfeited his castling rights, and he's got no protection here except for his pieces. And I think that we could safely say that white's position is to be preferred over black's almost any day. So this tactic was created, of course, by these positional themes, strategic weaknesses. The king-queen opposition along this half-open file, weakness of the black king side because of the lack of the f-pawn and the advanced nature of these pawns here. So these are the ways that we look out for the tactical element, my friends. Just to reiterate, there are tactics because of the position of pieces. When you scan the chessboard, look for these. They manifest themselves in ways like unprotected pieces, pieces on the same file, the same rank, the same diagonal, etc. There are tactics that result because of the dynamic potential of your pieces. Try to realize that dynamic potential, and there are tactics which result from strategic weaknesses. Things like the back rank, or a weak file, a weak diagonal, the advanced nature of pawns, or the absence of pawns around your opponent's king. So thank you very much, my chess friends. I hope that you found this helpful. In the next video, we'll go on to look at how we can synthesize all of these ideas and try to determine what is the most prominent feature of the chess position around which we can build our ideas. So thank you very much for taking the time, and I sincerely wish you well with your own chess. Take care and goodbye.